The demand.
Hello everyone, I'm Leslie Russell, and I'm really happy to be here today because today is very significant because we've just started a new series that was created by Mr. Buzz Holmes, and it's called Our Simsbury, and it's a wonderful opportunity for you, the viewers, to really find out about the town that you live in, the direction that it's going, and maybe a lot of questions that you had that you didn't know where to go to find the answers to. And if you have turned us on, just keep it here for the next 30 minutes because we are very fortunate to have two gentlemen with us today who are going to be talking about the Economic Development Commission. And we are fortunate to have Mr. Bill Sweeney and Mr. Lou George with us. And thank you for coming today.
Thank you.
Thank you.
And before we get into all the great questions that we have that I know that I'm really eager to find out about, I'd like to kind of go back and put a person with the position. And I know that you've got quite a history here in the town, Bill. And if you could take us back to 1968 when you made the big decision to move here with your family.
That's right, in 1968 I was transferred here by the Hartford Life and moved. I think we had 4 or 5 kids then. We have 7 now. And we've been here since 68. That's 34 years. Same lady, Judy, and the 7 kids and 9 grandchildren, and I'm retired and I do some consulting with life insurance companies now.
That's wonderful. That's
fun.
great. And what about you, Lou?
Well, I haven't been here quite as long as Bill. I've been here 7 years, married, my wife Gina, and we have 3 boys. They're 8, 6, and 4, Nicholas, Alexander, and Dimitri. I'm an attorney at Hassett and George. We have an office here in Hot Benno Street in the Simsbury Townshops, and also an office in Hartford. And we've enjoyed it.
That's great. Now, you've told us what brought you here. What is it that has kept you here? I mean, it's a long time to be in Simsbury, and I know a lot of times with businesses you have opportunities to go to other parts of the country. And what was it specifically about Simsbury that you decided to stay here and have this be the place where you raise your family?
I guess what attracts most families to Simsbury is the school system. I know when my last child, Billy, graduated from the high school, I took out an ad in the paper, in the Farmington Valley Herald at that time, thanking the teachers and the administration of the schools for educating my children. So it's been that. Plus, I've been involved in a lot of activities in town, the Theater Guild of Simsbury and other things. Simsbury Summer Theater for Youth. I was the founding chairman of the St. Mary's Parish Council. And it's just been a great town to grow up in, to have my children grow up in, I should say. And fortunately, most of them, all but one, still live in the New England area, so we're very, very lucky to have that.
That's wonderful.
Yeah.
That speaks a lot about the area.
It really does, yeah. I love it.
What about you, Lou?
I think you can sum it up best. The quality of life of Simsbury is what attracted and certainly hasn't let us down. And we're fortunate, whether it be the school systems, the other facilities, library, things like that, I think have been, 1, an attraction, and 2, they've lived up to their expectations. And I think it's time that people continue to volunteer and continue to make that happen for the years to come.
Okay. That's wonderful. And I know that you've got quite a military background. Could you share some of that with us?
I served in occupied Arkansas.
Okay.
I was there during the Little Rock school crisis, 1956 to 58. Actually, it's not a big military career. I was the special service officer at Fort Chaffee, Arkansas, those years. And I ran a sports program. I had a good time.
Okay. And what about you, Lou? Where were you before living in Simsbury?
Various schooling. I went to Union College, so I was in upstate New York. I'm
Okay.
originally from Massachusetts.
Okay.
And then came to Connecticut, went to school in Bridgeport, which was at then the University of Bridgeport, which is now Quinnipiac School of Law, and have lived in Middletown and then moved to Simsbury.
That's great. So here you both are, and you're on this wonderful commission, the Economic Development Commission, which is such an important commission to be on. And I know that the viewers watching probably are eager to learn more about that. So if you could tell us, what exactly is the charge of the Economic Development Commission?
Well, we're to help bring new businesses to town, but also help existing businesses to grow and expand. So we perform a variety of functions. Each of the members, there are currently 8 members on the commission, were appointed. There are Republicans and Democrats. Republicans are the majority currently. And we each have a specific project, whether it be a booth at Septemberfest, excuse me, a realtor's tour, which, we recently sponsored a tour of travel writers for the Farmington Valley Tourist Board. Brought 30 writers to the valley, and we help support that financially. And they will be writing hundreds of articles about the Farmington Valley in travel magazines over the next few months. So we do a lot of things. We go to expos, we participate in a regional effort for economic development. We're currently working on updating the new economic development plan for the town, which must be reviewed and renewed every 10 years. It's due next year, or actually 2004, I think. We're working on an upgrade of that. Lou recently did a very interesting thing with Dave Ryan, another member of the board. He conducted a benchmarking survey of the valley. You might want to talk about that a little bit, Lou.
That'd be great. I have it here.
Bill had put together 2 of us, myself and Dave Ryan, to really just compare Simsbury to other towns on its borders in the area and other towns in the state that we thought were of somewhat comparable characteristics. We first did a statistical study. We determined the populations, the land size, the number of businesses, their top 5 employers in the town, and tried to get a statistical basis, looked at the mill rates and the comparison of residential to industrial or commercial property. And we just tried to take an overview and look at that and be sure we had some comparable towns. Some are more comparable than others, so some of the conclusions in one town would be slightly different than another, maybe because of their location. Maybe one is, Farmington is closer to Interstate 84 than Simsbury, and other more rural towns that we looked at would be on the other end of the spectrum. So you'd have some towns on each end of the spectrum, and we kind of tried to look at the middle and compare the towns that were in that middle and how Simsbury compared to them. Then, once we did the statistical analysis, we then contacted these towns and spoke to the people in charge of economic development, or had some dealings with their economic development, and asked them questions about what they did for economic development, how hard they would push for economic development. And we went through that and then prepared a report, albeit 2 amateurs undertaking this. We came up with some conclusions and I think some reinforcement of thoughts that the commission had already had.
So you can look at Simsbury and the surrounding towns and get an idea where you are in relation to like what they're doing, and maybe some things that you could do to improve Simsbury even more so. Is that it? Like
Exactly.
What exactly is when you decided to do this benchmark report, what were your goals? What was your objective in doing? What did you want to accomplish?
To look at how Simsbury stood on a statistical basis to other comparable towns, and then look at what those towns were doing relative to Simsbury with regard to
make
economic
sure that we were doing
development.
enough and kind of like doing
The right things. Maybe we were doing the right things and they weren't, or
Right.
vice versa, but it was to see what they were doing, and we had a lot of cooperation from the various towns.
Now that you have this information, what is it that you plan on doing with it?
I think we've discussed it at our commission meetings, and we came to some conclusions, some of which I think reinforced what we had already determined, and we set a course based on those factors and are starting to proceed down that. And basically, I think one of the main points was that all the towns but one are very interested in economic development, and they are actively pursuing it in a couple of various ways. One of the ways that Simsbury in the past was pursuing it was marketing the town, the quality of life, what Simsbury is all about. And we found that there were a number of the other towns that may have done that in the past and tried it and found that it really didn't work, because the people that you're trying to attract, the businesses, aren't, that's one segment of
Right.
their decision, but the majority of their decision is really a business decision, and it's really what the town has to offer. And we found that the overwhelming thought was that finding ways to assist the businesses, developers, in working through the town's permitting processes,
Right.
speeding that up, and developing programs that can benefit them were the most important factors that towns were focusing on.
And Bill, you had mentioned that the tax abatement program, and that sounds something like very
There
exciting.
are two initiatives that our first selectman, Tom Vincent, has initiated that really are exciting. The first is a tax abatement program for new businesses or for expanding existing businesses. An existing business that wants to grow by more than $100,000 of new investment can get a 40% tax reduction in the first year, then it grades down over a 3-year period. And a new business coming to town can get its taxes reduced by 30%, graded over then 20 and 10 the second and third year. In addition to that, Tom and the Board of Selectmen have established kind of a slush fund of $500,000 that can be used for infrastructure improvement. If a new business coming to town needed some roads or signs or sewers or something, we can spend $500,000 instantly almost, without going through all the approval process. The money's there and it's ready to use. So it's already being used in a couple of businesses in town, and we're talking to several other developers who are interested in it. So it's really a good thing.
Now, how do you get that out to the public? How do you get that out to
Well,
businesses? Like there's a business in North Carolina that's looking to maybe move north or even closer than
Yeah.
that. How do they find out about something like that?
It's not easy. We've tried to publish it in newspapers and the like, but when they contact Town Hall,
Okay.
if they call the planning office, Bill Wilker and his staff, they're informed of the process. So it's really a good deal.
That's wonderful. Let's see here.
If I may add to that, one of the other ways that we've found recently that is helping to put Simsbury on the map with companies that may be across the nation are working more with the Hartford Metro Alliance,
Yes.
which is kind of a regional economic center that has various arms to it that help the various towns around Hartford for the whole capital region.
That's great.
And I think we've been making more contact with them, and they're out there on a national level looking at the region.
Right.
And if we fit in to some needs of a business, then they'll direct it to us. And what they do is present the whole region and present all of the different plans, and the developers, businesses that are nationally can look at it.
And that can help Hartford out too.
Sure.
And are you like in alliance with them? Have you
Yes,
is
we
this
pay dues.
parallel?
Oz Griebel's the chairman. He lives here in Simsbury. And actually, it's growing into a Springfield-Hartford alliance, a corridor for economic development. And we're very excited about that.
That's very exciting. If someone were to ask you, well, why does Simsbury need development? If I've lived here for 30 years, I'm happy with the way that things are going. We don't need to change.
Well, that's the whole trick of economic development in Simsbury, is to keep the balance that we currently have of rural and suburban environment. But if you like to pay taxes, then you don't need economic development. But currently, 15% of our tax income comes from commercial development, and we'd like that to be 20% at least. So the trick is to do it in such a way with the kind of businesses that you like. I take the Hartford, who pays my pension, as a matter of fact, Hartford Life. That development is the #1 taxpayer in town. And if you drive by there, have you ever seen anything more beautiful than that? You can hardly see
Right.
the building. The landscape is done beautifully, and that's what we want to do. For several years, the commission employed a consultant who went through a survey and identified certain kinds of businesses we'd like to have here. And then we mailed those businesses all over the country for several years. And we decided not to do that any longer because it was quite expensive and the town budget needed to be reduced this year. But we have a focus of what kinds of businesses we like. We want insurance companies, we want data processing, maybe call centers. We're not looking to put slaughterhouses and, and steel mills into Simsbury. So, and we've got sufficient amount of land, although it's not very much land. If you take the Hartford, the CL&P property, the Powder Forest, which Ensign Bickford owns, and then land up around the skating center on the north end of town, and then around the airport. That's it. That's all we got in any place else. So we've got to figure out a way to bring the kinds of businesses we want into town on a favorable basis. It's not easy.
Now, is the goal to have it so people's taxes aren't going up significantly every year, or is it to even go above and beyond that? Because like the residents in Simsbury, their homes were just assessed.
I don't think we're going to reduce taxes in the foreseeable future, but if we can moderate the growth rate, that'd be terrific. And we've got some serious issues coming up. That we had a significant tax raise this year, or we will have. Now we've got the high school coming, the modernization of the high school coming in the next year or two. Plus, we keep growing. If somebody buys a house in Simsbury that is worth less than $700,000, the town loses. There's an average of 2 students per house, and the taxes don't cover the cost of going to school.
That's significant.
So if you get over $750,000, the taxes just about cover the cost of going to school. So every time we build a house in town, we lose money. So it's a very, very difficult problem. We have some built-in advantages and some drawbacks. Our principal disadvantage is the highway system. We don't have any. We're not accessible to 84 or 91. So people who come here, come by car, it's pretty tough to take a truck into here. So that limits us. However, we are close to the airport, and that helps. We've got a great workforce, and that helps. We have the #1 school system in the state, and that helps. So we've got some things that can draw people here. But as Lou said, the key is making the process of bringing a business to town quick, simple, easy. And we're working very hard on that.
Right, have the business fit the town.
Yes.
Now, with those pieces of property that you just mentioned, how do you go about, if a company was interested in moving here, what is the process in getting approval for that land? If you could kind of talk about that.
It depends. Currently, for example, the CLP property is owned by a gentleman named Mr. Greenberg. We sponsored a realtor's tour of the property a couple of months ago. We had a breakfast meeting and exposition of the property, and he explained the lease deals and the like. He then has to, if he has a buyer, has to go through planning and/or zoning, depending on what use there is of the land. What we want to do is make that process so quick and so simple and so packaged that you don't have to go to one meeting one night and then go to the next meeting a month later and another meeting a month later. So there's all sorts of commissions, wetlands, design and review board, as I mentioned, planning, zoning. What are the other commissions they have to go through?
I think you hit basically the ones you would have to go through. And
are they interrelated? Do you communicate with each other and they're all interrelated? Okay.
Some are interrelated. A problem may come up somewhere along the way that may necessitate going back to a board or commission. So it may take more than one visit, or they may start down a process and realize that they have to go back to one of the boards because they realized they were inland wetlands may be affected in some way. So there's a litany of steps that have to be taken, and through our benchmarking study, we realized that other towns have already identified ways to assist the developer in shortening that time frame, and they're trying to make it more attractive. And I think that is part of the process, finding ways not to eliminate these boards or eliminate these permitting processes, but to make it a more efficient, in a time sense, a more efficient process because the timing is important to the businesses and developers. If they can get through a process in a month or two as opposed to 6 or 8,
Right.
that makes a big difference in part of their decision making.
Absolutely.
And then you couple that with other plans and abatement programs, and that becomes an attractive town.
And how does the community become aware of these different companies that are looking, and how can you get that out to them as far as
Again, it's
getting
not
support?
easy.
You know,
We did sponsor an ambassadors breakfast a year or so ago, wherein we invited CEOs of companies who live in Simsbury, whose businesses are not in Simsbury, and we wanted to have them be aware of our process and be ambassadors, as I said, to reach out to their companies and to other companies. The process really begins with Bill Volker, the town planner, and his staff, and Tom Vincent, our first selectman, is very much involved. He meets regularly with existing businesses. He has an outreach program, and he also meets with people who are interested in coming to town. And their job is to shortcut the process. As Lou said, I'd like to see us have a developer come to one meeting where design review and planning and zoning and other commissions, wetlands, would all be there and outline the problems and provide answers, excuse me, quickly, because we have an expansion going on at the, it used to be Executive American
General casualty, I believe.
General Casualty. It's going to do a major expansion. They've got to get it done. The process has got to be approved, excuse me, by year end. They're going to be done with it, I think, by mid-year next year. That takes a lot of coordination to get all the plans approved, and that's what we want to do to expedite that process.
Okay. It sounds, listening to everything that you're talking about here, it's very exciting. It sounds wonderful. Now, what is the other side of it? Why would someone be hesitant to, to move along with this whole process?
Coming to Simsbury,
Yeah.
taxes are high, land values are high, highway access is low. Those are the major hurdles we have to overcome. Other than that, it's a great place. And a lot of people don't want it to change. A lot of people don't want anything. They got kids in school, so what? Raise the taxes. We don't care.
Right.
I think that's a tough call when you come to seniors such as myself or to other people who don't have all the money in the world. But we have a very rich town, and I think, in fairness to all the citizens, if we want to have this a place where seniors and others can live, we've got to do economic development. We have to do it.
To add to that, in our study, there was a town down in the downstate Fairfield County area that really wasn't interested in pursuing economic development, and their thought was that the citizens of that town, if they wanted a new school or they wanted a new library or they wanted to spend some money on some service, that the people of the town would pay the taxes and did not have a problem with it. And that's fine. If that's what the taxpayers and citizens want, that can occur. You don't need that economic development. So there are citizens in towns out there that are not necessarily interested in keeping taxes low all the time. I find that in the small majority. I think to provide the quality of life that attracts everyone here, you need to find some reasonable economic development, and certainly it can be done, and you can work through the processes to make sure it's done in the right way and keep the right character, and also help the developers. So it's a balancing act.
Now, our viewers who are watching, if they wanted to get involved, how would one go about getting involved in the commission?
First, come to our meetings, which are held the second Thursday of every month at 7:30 a.m., which is a bit of a grind. They're in the main meeting room in Town Hall. And we do have people that drop in occasionally, and we welcome them. And we need all the help we can get.
And lately, I think over the last year, I have noticed an increase in people just showing up with concerns that may affect a particular business or a particular event, or provide information that we may not have known about. So I think there's more and more people coming to these meetings, finding out about that, and I know I speak for the whole commission that we encourage people to come down and let us know what's going on, what their thoughts are, what some of the impediments or hurdles may be to a particular business or event.
By the way, the commission is, it is Republican majority, but is very much a bipartisan commission. We really don't let politics get involved in our decisions, so I'm very proud of that. We have a very active board, too.
That's great.
Good bunch of folks.
That's wonderful. In closing, any additional comments or questions that you'd like to share with our viewers?
I would just ask everybody who lives in Simsbury who might know of a business that might want to come to town to act as an ambassador for the town and to reach out and talk it up. We're a business-friendly community, and as you know, we've got a lot of things going for us, and so we just need all the help we can get.
That's wonderful. Thank you so much. Thanks for coming on the show.
Thank you.
Thank you. Nice to
very
be
much,
with you.
Bill. It's
I enjoyed
great.
it very much.
Thank you very much.
Bye-bye.